just want to state again, thank you all so much for coming to this year's Designer of Distinction. Very excited to see a full house and so many smiling faces after these last few years of dealing with the pandemic. So thank you for being here. I also at this time want to welcome some special guests that we have here today. We have Andrea Barnwell-Brownlee, the director and CEO of the Cummer Museum of Art and Gardens, just up here to the front. Andrea. And yeah, that would be wonderful. If you can stand when I say your name, that would be lovely. We have Jacoby Pittman, District 8 City Councilwoman with us today. We have Connie Gladding, the District 4 Director of the Florida Federation of Garden Clubs. And as we celebrate our 100th year, please help me recognize these former Garden Club presidents. Betsy Powers, Charlene Hughes, Gloria Nunn, and Irene Woodworth. I also would like to welcome former chairs of the Designer of Distinction, Benita Boyd and Sonia Pettit. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to thank the Designer of Distinction Planning Committee. And I'll just rattle them off really quickly. And if you'll all stand and just remain standing, that would be lovely. We have Debbie Bird, Martha Collins Davis, Margie Fox, and you're not standing. So Debbie Bird, Martha Collins Davis, Margie Fox, Becky Rude, Ann Sauer, Jan Sillick, Bonnie Sipe, and Irene Woodworth. Thank you, ladies. Everything looks absolutely beautiful. Eileen will be assisted today by her cousin, Bernadette Johnson, and Eileen's aunt is here too, Linda Johnson. So thank you for coming. It's wonderful. At this time, I'm also supposed to give a brief history of the Garden Club of Jacksonville. So this will be super brief since we're running a little behind. But it's going to be hard to keep 100 years worth of history down to just a few words and a few minutes, but I'm going to try my best to highlight some of the garden clubs of Jacksonville's rich history while hopefully adding a few fun facts that you already know. On a Saturday afternoon on March 25th, 1922, Nina May Holden Cummer called a meeting at her home for the purpose of forming a garden club. The object of the club was to promote interest in gardens, their design and management, and to cooperate in the protection of wildflowers, native plants, and encourage civic planting. A motion was made and approved that the dues for this garden club would be $3 a year. They would meet every month except July, August, September, and October. and that 3 consecutive unexcused absences shall forfeit your membership. So these ladies did not mess around. After holding their very first flower show on April 16th and 17th of 1923 on Fisk Street, the desire to join the garden club was a very popular one. Everyone wanted to be a member. Because of the tremendous growth, the now present circle plan was developed. Fun fact, the formation of the circles originated from the Garden Club of Jacksonville. It was conceived by a young man, the son of one of the founders, John A. Ferguson of Orange Park. The first circles to be organized in 1923 were Ortega, Avondale, Ingleside, Springfield, the early settlers, and Timuquana. It was also during the early years of the club's founding that the Garden Club of Jacksonville was asked to serve on the Jacksonville City Planning Commission and were instrumental in the hiring of the city's first ever city planner, and his name was George W. Simons, Jr. The Garden Club was also involved in saving the historic Treaty Oak, And there was even a time that no trees along the streets of Jacksonville were to be cut without the permission of the garden club. Again, these ladies meant business. So I also have to mention too that the Garden Club was one of the 4 founding members of the Florida Federation of Garden Clubs that was established on April 24th of 1924. So with the growth of the Garden Club, it soon became clear that a home base or clubhouse was needed. After years of planning and fundraising, the Garden Club was able to purchase land and build at the present location here on Riverside Avenue. The first building was a slat house known as the Exhibition Building, which was destroyed by a fire. It was replaced with the current club room, which is just over here to our left, on January 3rd, 1948. As the Garden Club continued to grow, it was evident a larger space for meetings and events was needed. Hence, the building we are sitting in this morning was opened in 1958. Throughout the decades, the Garden Club of Jacksonville continues to support Nina's vision with planting bulbs at local libraries, decorating holiday trees to donate to naval hospitals, maintaining and beautifying street medians, flower shows, monthly horticulture programs, a children's program to encourage our future gardeners, and plant sales. We also are actively engaged in helping seeing our city's green spaces grow along the Jacksonville downtown riverfront with our partnership with Scenic Jacksonville and Riverfront Park Now. I'm almost done. I know that Nina would be very proud of us today, that we have taken her dream of a garden club and expanded our membership once again. And in 2019, launched our Friends membership so that now anyone in the city can enjoy the Garden Club's many programs, activities, and community engagement without being a part of a circle. This level of membership has been extremely successful, and we now have approximately, this number has to be bigger. I don't know where Denise is, but the number that I have currently was around 373 friends, and with a total membership of just over 1,000 members today. We have a wonderful, rich history here at the Garden Club of Jacksonville and a lot to celebrate with our centennial anniversary. I look forward to seeing you all during our year-long celebration and encourage you to go to our club's website at GardenClubJax.org to stay up to date with all that we have planned. Thank you for attending our designer's distinction. Please enjoy the program, and happy 100th anniversary to the Garden Club of Jacksonville.
Those as well. I'd like to thank 2 sponsors of today's event. Fern Trust is sponsoring Eileen's Florida foliage design. Fern Trust is a marketing cooperative of 11 family farms located in Seville, Florida, the heart of fern country. With more than 120 foliages in stock each day, they are truly your one-stop shop for everything foliage. The Riverdale Inn is providing lodging for Eileen and her cousin Bernadette this week. The Riverdale Inn is a family-owned and operated business located in the heart of Riverside in Jacksonville. With 11 individually designed and decorated guest rooms, guests feel at home while still enjoying the amenities of a hotel or larger inn. So it's been great, like no car events for Eileen and Bernadette this weekend. They've been able to walk everywhere they need to go. Now, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our presenter today. Eileen Tongson is the owner of FarmGal Flowers, an urban flower farm and design studio in Orlando. She is also one of the gardeners at Easton Market, where she helps maintain the garden. In addition to growing her own flowers, Eileen designs with them and provides arrangements for special events. Eileen completed the University of Florida IFAS Master Gardener Program, and has studied floral design at numerous locations over the years, including Floret Flower, that's a really tongue twister, Floret Flower Farm, say that 10 times fast, and Flower School, New York. Eileen is also a gardening and floral design instructor at Harry P. Lou Gardens and Easton Market. Her expertise has been featured in Flower Magazine, Florist Review, Edible Orlando, Slow Flowers, Orange Appeal Magazine, House.com, The Spruce, and in Floret Farm's book, Small Plot, Big Impact, inspiring stories, profiles, and advice from 30 flower growers from around the world, and Deborah Prinzing's book, Where We Bloom. Eileen was voted Best Florist in Best of Winter Park in 2019, 2020, and 2021. Clients have included the Ford Motor Company, Chico's, Williams-Sonoma Winter Park, and the Orlando Museum of Art, and the Orlando Magic. Please give a warm welcome to Eileen Tongson.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming today. When I found out about this, I shared the news with my husband, and he was like, people are going to come see you up there because, I'm from Orlando. And wait till I tell him I need that picture that you just took, Denise, because when I show him the picture of all the people who are here today, he's going to be so excited. And I know you all are my people. You are gardeners, just like me. I'm going to tell you the story today of how I built FarmGal Flowers. And, it all started essentially because I'm a gardener. I love to garden. I love flowers and plants, and it just all started with that. So my plan is I'm going to do 4 arrangements for you today. And then I'm going to integrate my story, of how this all came to be with those 4 arrangements. I usually take questions, as I'm going along. So if you have any, feel free to raise your hand. I think Denise has a mic. I'll repeat the question too, just to make sure everyone can hear it. But usually, I teach a lot back home. I love to teach. And so I love questions, and, I'm happy to answer them. I think you all got this, but let me reiterate that I grow all the flowers that we use in our design work. Probably 95% of the flowers that we use, which is what makes our business unique. If I have to source extra flowers, or if I have a client who wants something in particular, like a bride, then I try to source from other farms, definitely all American grown flowers. So that's a little bit about where our flowers come from. My first piece is going to be a kitchen garden design, because as I mentioned to you earlier, this just all started with me. I just love to grow flowers and vegetables, and so I'm going to start with this. It really started with the smaller ball jar. But for today, because I want you all to see this, we're going to kind of magnify it a little. But let's see, it's this way. Now, my mom gave me, so actually, let me back up a little. I completed the Master Gardener program back in Orange County, where I live in Orlando. And I was growing almost all of my family's produce, all the vegetables. And at the beginning of the spring season, about, let's see, I think we're going on 7 years now, all my beds were prepped. By the way, we grow entirely in raised beds in mushroom compost. And my beds are prepped for the spring, and my mom was over, and she gave me a packet of seeds that I think she got. Remember when they used to come in magazines or in the mail? Because, she doesn't throw anything away, so she gives me the seed here, take these, plant them. So I didn't really, honestly, I didn't even really look at the packet. I just, I opened it up. I had a bed already prepped, and I threw them in there. And they grew, and they grew. And I was fascinated because they were so prolific, just so many flowers. And I cut those flowers, and I brought them in the house, and they kept blooming. And then I was sharing them with friends. And then I was hooked on flowers after that. And the next thing you know, my husband's like, what happened to all the vegetables, And I was like, oh, we're still going to grow some vegetables. But I was hooked on flowers. Well, it turns out that packet of seeds was zinnias, which I'm fortunate because those are some of the easiest. I'm sure you guys grow zinnias here. They are one of the easiest flowers to grow. I always say they're like the gateway flower, like once you start growing zinnias, you feel like you're successful and you get sucked in and you grow more and more flowers. So that is what started it. And I just became more interested in growing flowers. That year I found out about Erin Benzakein, who owns Floret Flower Farm. I'm sure people here know who that she is, right? I see a nod, right? A firm nod right in the front. So she owns Floret Flower Farm in Washington State. And she was starting workshops out there, and I signed up to go. And I went out there to study with her. And I'm so fortunate and grateful that I did that at the time, because now you can't. She is the foremost expert, in the world right now. And she can't even have people over anymore because it's just crazy. But she has been my mentor. And so I went out there, and then I learned with her. But of course, she is in zone, like, I think it's 5. I live in zone 9B in Orlando. So I learned a lot from her. That's where I learned to grow dahlias. I had never really seen a dahlia before until I went to Floret. And then I took all that information, came back to Orlando, zone 9, but since I had completed the Master Gardener program, I knew how to grow. I knew how our seasons worked and how to grow in zone 9. So I just kind of translated the information I learned from Erin about growing flowers to our zone. And fortunately, was very successful with that. So I still get a lot of like, you can grow flowers in Orlando, and yes, you can grow flowers in Orlando. I mean, and we're particularly known for the dahlias, because people really thought you could not grow dahlias in Florida, in Central Florida, or in Florida at all. But I teach a course just entirely on dahlias that people come from all over the state, to learn about that. Okay. So that is, let's see, Erin and the dahlias. And from there, that same year, I went to Floret. Some friends of mine who are also gardeners were opening Easton Market. And we happened to be at dinner one day at our kids' function, one of our kids' functions, and they said, and their gardeners were very like-minded that way, and I mentioned I was going out to Floret, and they said, well, when you get back, you can grow flowers in our market garden out front, which I was like, as I said before, I had no intention of this becoming like a business or anything. It was just something I enjoyed and loved to do. And I said, well, let's see how it all goes, when I go out to Floret and, come back. And I didn't know if he was really serious. Maybe he was just being, kind and, friendly. I went out to Floret, came back, and I was dropping my son off at school, and I hear someone running after me in the parking lot. And it was the owner of the market. He's like, "You're back." And I said, "Yeah, I'm back. How was it?" It was great. And he's like, "So when are you starting?" And I'm like, oh gosh, he was serious, I said, okay, well, and this was a very pivotal moment for me, because I felt like it was a sign, like I'd been sent a sign, like, okay, Eileen, this is it. You say yes, because this is an opportunity, and actually, gosh, I don't know why I'm starting to get a little teared up here right now, but that was really like a pivotal point in all of this, so I said, oh, well, let's start next week. Did I know what I was doing? Kind of, kind of. And we started, and he initially, he worked out there in the garden with me. And from there, he helps. So Easton Market is an artisanal food hall in Orlando. If you're ever down there, come on and visit, and you can see some of my flowers out front. But it's kind of it's a food hub for new culinary businesses. So he helped me too, get started with my business. I didn't have a business plan, or I didn't know the licenses and all that. So he helped me. And that's when this all started. I started growing the flowers there. We have a 3,000 square foot market garden out front. And they grew, thank goodness, they grew. And then people wanted to buy them. And so there came the floral design piece, because they're my flowers, I have to put them together. And the vendors in the market, I grew edible flowers too, and the vendors in the market also wanted to use them as well. So then we also had an event space upstairs, and they asked me to teach classes up there. And again, I have taught, I used to actually teach at UF, but not, gardening and floral design and all that. But again, I said yes, and the rest was history. It just all started evolving from there. Okay, now I know you want to, sorry, that was a lot. I know you want to see some actual floral design here. But some of the initial, the initial pieces that I did were very simple. And as I said, this is a large ball jar, but I started, just using those small pint ball jars. And, using simple things from the garden that I had, like mint. We are known for using a lot of herbs, integrating a lot of herbs into our bouquets. I grow many varieties of mint. They're perennials here in, well, I'm pretty sure they're perennials here too, but in Orlando, they're definitely perennials. And we grow, this is spearmint. By the way, if you have any questions about anything that I'm using today, feel free to ask me. And as you can see, this mint has gone to flower, which I love. I love this little tail, and but it adds adds some texture because it's fuzzy. The mint always smells amazing, and it has great base life. So I usually start with greening out my arrangements, which means using the foliage first to help build a base, especially this has a wide mouth. So I like to start with the foliage first. Also, I know a lot of you are floral designers on here, but just a few basics just to make sure, we're kind of all on the same page. I do always use flower food in my water, because there have been extensive studies on whether to use plain water, water with flower food, drop the penny in there. Like, I'm sure you guys know all the all the tricks. But according to the studies that have been done, really using flower food extends the base life of your flowers the best. It helps keep the water clean, and it also provides food, carbohydrates for the flowers. So that's a little tip there. And then also no leaves in the water, because that makes the water dirty faster and will decrease the base life of your flowers. And try to cut at an angle. Cut your stems at an angle, because that increases the surface area for the branch to take in, the maximum amount of water, which again also extends the base life. And after you have spent all this time growing these flowers, you want this to last as long as possible. And since most of my flowers, are freshly cut, we do have great base life, compared to other flowers that are flown in and all that. So, okay, so yeah, go ahead. Yes, yes, absolutely. Okay, another amazing basil is African blue basil. This grows so well here in Florida. Does anyone grow this around here? This is also one of Aaron's all-time favorites. Now, as your basil grows, it tends to develop a woody stem like this one. So just make sure you do cut it at an angle to maximize the water intake. It probably needs to sit in water for several hours to kind of recoup from being cut. All of these flowers, I came over yesterday, so most of them were cut Tuesday and Wednesday morning before I left, and they've all been sitting in water for a while. So when you initially cut basil, it might wilt a little, but it will perk back up after it's sat in the bucket for a while. Well, I bring the buckets out with me to cut the flowers. And then so I just automatically, I don't like put them in a basket or anything, especially we're here in Florida, because they will start to deteriorate faster. So I put them in the bucket and then let them sit a while, and then I'll arrange them. Yes. Before I put them in the arrangement, I like to let them hydrate for a while. Yeah, in the bucket. Some flowers are more sensitive to that than others, like basil. It prefers to be hydrated first and then put in the arrangement. But as you can see, this basil has lots of branches, so it's going to be a nice base for this arrangement. And you know, the foliage always is a little, like, it's going to move a little when you're first working with it, and you know, but don't worry about that, because as you add more to it, it'll take more structure. Also, the bees love this basil. Like, sometimes I have to take a step back, let them get used to me, and then cut it, or else because they get upset. But I've only been stung once. Okay, and then, yes.
Is the African basil edible?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I always let it go to flower like this. So it's great foliage. So your arrangements are, the components of an arrangement usually are your foliage, your line flower, your focal flowers, and your supporting flowers. Did I get them all? I think so. And what's great about basil is that it's foliage. It also becomes a line flower in your arrangement. And it's also edible. You know, people always like that when there's edible flowers in their arrangements. Okay, I'm just going to set that there like that for now. And we also have, are you guys familiar with apple mint? The smell is amazing. You have to come smell it afterwards later. But this mint has a beautiful, like, soft texture to it, sturdy stems, as you can see. And it has a different shade of green compared to other types of mint. So it is one of my favorites, and it's a perennial, comes back every year, which is, of course, always a good thing in the garden.
Once the herb goes to flower, does it change the flavor of
it can change the
making
flavor.
it
Yes.
stronger or
Yes, I think,
bitter?
and I think with most herbs like mint and basil, it's like sweeter when it's younger, and then gets a little bit spicier. Kind of like, I guess it's kind of like meat. So with this arrangement, I always start off with lots of herbs.
Do you grow from seed or
Um, primarily, we grow everything from seed, but some of, like, mint, you know, you can propagate easily, you know, and get mint, it grows like crazy, as you all know. It's best to actually put it in a pot or something. But almost all of our flowers are grown from seed or tubers or corms. There are some that we do grow from plugs. Some of the varieties that are a little bit harder to germinate, like Lisianthus, we grow those from plugs. Okay. Now, here's another favorite, chocolate mint. Again, look, great stems on this. This you just plop in water and it'll root. I hope it's starting to look like an arrangement from up there.
Great stems sounds like a pickup line.
I know this keeps turning. I wanted the ball part in the front, but okay. Chocolate mint is another great variety that does really well here in Florida. Okay, so from here I might add some celosia. This one I just cut. It's a little, the flower isn't so big yet. It does get bigger, but I wanted to bring some Celosia loves the heat in Florida, very easy to grow. I love the foliage on this. I'm always attracted to bright colors. So I love the chartreuse color of this variety. I had another one, there it is. Celosia reseeds on its own, or it's very easy to save the seeds from Celosia. Just let the flowers go to seed. I love collecting it. I find it very fun. And I make my own. I have a jar called Eileen's Celosia Mix. And I share it with my students, and I think they're getting like something very, very special. It's really just, I'm too lazy to like separate them all out by color, so I just put it all in one jar. But you see how that Celosia comes in many different colors, yellow, fuchsia, and then I like the foliage too on it. And then, so that's very easy to grow here, loves the heat. And then your zinnias. So let me see how we're looking here. Okay, good. So as you probably can see, like most of my arrangements kind of have like this asymmetrical look. And that's just something I've always gravitated towards. This is a Benry Zinnia, and I love this color. As I mentioned, I love bright colors. Since I grow all of the flowers we use, I grow the ones that I like and that I'm attracted to. But another reason I primarily grow bright colors is because in Orlando, the bugs are attracted more to the white flowers, like the Japanese beetles, and those Japanese beetles can like tear down your garden like overnight. So I plant some, very few white flowers compared to the brightly colored flowers that we grow. Has anyone here noticed that in this zone? I mean, I think you guys are 9 too, but I don't know if anyone else has noticed that as well. But it is known that like Japanese beetles in particular are very attracted to white flowers. So that is another reason I primarily grow brightly colored flowers. We do weddings. So I tend to do smaller weddings, and we definitely have a certain niche, because most brides want white. And as I just said, I primarily grow bright colors. So now that we've been around for a little while, most brides that come to me know that about us, and they tend to, these are my favorite brides, they say, Eileen, just do your thing, just do what, I love your flowers, just do that. And that makes me very happy, and it makes it very easy for me. So we don't do a lot of huge weddings, but those tend to be the type that we do. So this, I really will just continue to fill with the zinnias. Zinnias have great sturdy stems, all different colors. My favorite, so I always suggest my students start with the Benry and the Oklahoma. The Oklahoma are these smaller ones right here. And then the Queen series of zinnias. Queen Red with Lime, Queen, this is the Queen Green with Blush. There's also a Queen Green with Orange, but they're multicolored now. It's not just your plain, solid zinnias. So there's really, I always say there's always a zinnia for everyone. They don't get a lot of pests. The one thing you do have to watch out for with zinnias are powdery mildew. I'm sure you guys are familiar with powdery mildew on your vegetables and your they're on zinnias. Sometimes they get on my dahlias too. Yeah. About what? Sorry? Yeah, go ahead. Yes. Yeah, and that's the whole point of those flowers. Yeah.
I jumped in. Thank you. So the next year I jumped in with ranunculus and anemones, focusing after reading Lisa Ziegler's book on cool,
yes.
cool season flowers.
Yes.
And so my question for you is, I think maybe I started my cool season flowers a little late though. When would you start?
Where
those
do you
cool
live?
flowers?
You live around here?
I do.
Okay. Zone 9.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. So cool season, excuse me, cool season flowers. Sorry, this is getting a little tall. Cool season flowers are called that because they grow during when our weather is cool. They also are cool because these are some of the most loved flowers, as you said, lizzies, ranunculus, anemones. I mean, these are the flowers people swoon over. And so where we live, we start in, and it would probably be, well, you guys, probably around the same for you, maybe a few weeks, just a few weeks later, but November. And then they grow until they start blooming for us, usually in March, maybe a few weeks later for you. Yeah. We had a little bit of a cooler winter this past season, so ours actually bloomed like 2 weeks later. You know, you always have to be flexible like that with gardening. That's, you know, that's just how it is. But that's the season for cool flowers. They occupy a part of your garden for that whole period of time, but they are worth it. And I kind of narrowed it down. Like I pretty much, you know, I'll do delphinium, foxgloves, ranunculus, lisianthus, Rudbeckia. Those are the, oh, and then Queen Anne's lace. Forget me. Sorry, now I'm going on and on. I was like, there's only a few. Actually, I love them all. But they are worth, you know, they're in your garden for a long time, but they are worth it. So did I answer your question?
And then when's your cutoff? Like when do you get the last of your benefits from those flowers that you planted in November?
You'll know, like some of my ranunculus now, the leaves are all yellow. They just look done.
Right. Okay.
And we actually leave our corms in the ground.
Oh.
That's one of the advantages of being in zone 9. Now, as I said earlier, we grow entirely in raised beds.
Right.
So I know that those beds, one of the advantages of growing in raised beds is they drain well. So I know that they're not going to rot in there over the summer. So I can do that. But if your corms are planted directly, like not in raised beds,
Right.
then you might want to lift them. And you can do that. You lift them, you let them dry, store them in vermiculite in a Ziploc bag over the summer,
Right.
then replant them again in November.
That was a great tip. That was a great tip, especially with the lisianthus, because I couldn't get mine to do anything. So this
Lisianthus grow
year-
really slow.
So this year I'll do the plugs, like you said. So that was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are you do you have access to buying plugs?
Oh no, I was just gonna look for them. Just
Okay. Okay. Because
Lisianthus
plugs you tend to have that you have to buy them wholesale.
Oh, okay.
But see, my students, if I had this cool flowers is one of I call them like our advanced class, because
Gotcha.
you have to take care of those plants. They're not like zinnias, like you have
Sure.
to. So one of the advantages to coming to that class of mine is they get plugs as part of the
Gotcha.
class, and then moving forward, they buy plugs from me in the future.
Oh.
So, because most home gardeners need like 10 plugs. I mean, they don't need like
Right.
I have to buy like 150 at a
Right.
time.
So I'll see you in the future.
So come to my class.
Yeah. I'll see you soon.
Thank you for the plug.
Moral of the
Okay. Okay. Boy, I have to watch the time here, because as you can see, I can talk on and on and on about flowers, and you're gonna have to keep me in line, Denise. But this is just a very simple arrangement of zinnias, mint, basil that anyone can do and bring in, share with your friends, put it on the kitchen counter. I've always I've always done, little ball jar bouquets because, people love them. They're simple. Some people, not in my market, but I would hear from other parts of the country, oh, we're tired of that. But you know what? During the pandemic, when we were all home, the flowers didn't know that we were having a pandemic. I was swimming in flowers and all my classes got canceled and all my events got canceled. So you know what? We turned those ball jar bouquets into pick-me-up bouquets. And I started a little drive-through service and don't tell my neighbors, but, and people would send me a Venmo, drive through and pick up their pick-me-up bouquets in the ball jars. And you know what? Most of them were giving them away to their friends and, leaving them on their front porches and things like that. And just, spreading, happy thoughts and all that. And I loved doing that. And it also kept me busy because like I said, the flowers didn't know what was going on. And we had a ton of flowers. That was we always have flowers, but you know how some seasons are better than others. And that turned out to be a great spring. So that's just the way, that's how it is. Okay, one more thing I'm just going to add to this, nasturtium. So actually, let me grab this other piece here. Nasturtium, I don't even plant nasturtium anymore because it just keeps coming back. Our market is full of nasturtium. The vendors love it because I know you all know, this is an edible flower. It comes back, I don't have the variegated variety, I think, with me today, but I don't know if have you guys seen the variegated? It is so pretty. The leaf, it's very unique. It's really, really easy to grow. And, it's a little bit tedious to work with sometimes, as you can see me pulling this out. But it adds that curve to your arrangement. Let me see if I can get this one to, it adds a different element, like the little pod there. The flowers will continue to bloom. Look at this little curly Q in here. And, not all flowers continue to bloom after you cut them, but nasturtium does, ranunculus does. And I like to add these kind of hanging over the side of the arrangements, kind of like the finishing touch. It needs another one here. As I said, look, it's a little tangly to work with, but it's worth it. The leaves are edible too. They have they're a little bit, have a little bit of a spicy taste to them, but they are edible. There's a beautiful coral red color that I love. We have it growing at the market. Okay, I think I'm just going to add this last stem and then we need to move on to the next one here. So this is, a simple arrangement that I feel like these are simple flowers, easy to grow. A lot of value, actually, as I meant, a lot of these are perennials, the herbs are perennials, as I said, and they're great to share with people. Okay, so that's our kitchen garden arrangement. I put this on. Oh, I did, as we were talking about cool flowers, I tucked some marigolds in there. Marigolds are great in the garden. They're a companion plant for vegetables, and they have a scent that kind of keeps certain pests away. So we always have marigolds growing in the garden. Okay, whoever wins this is very lucky because I thought long and hard before I bought it with the intention, to bring it to this program. But the longer it sat in my studio over the past couple of weeks, I was like, I love that container. I mean, you might have seen it on my Instagram. I used it, I think, last week to put some butterfly ranunculus in it. But I love going to thrift shops, vintage shops, and finding treasures like this. And I found that olive jar vase at a vintage shop, and the prices are great. And but I love And then I put a sticker on there. But like, I love this container. Whoever wins this, you have to send me a picture of what you do with it, in the future. But it's an old watering can. And I thought this might be hard to work with, but it's not, because it actually helps the flowers kind of stand up. It provides some structure. Okay, so the next arrangement I'm going to do is one of my so my style is kind of this like wild, like botanical look. Like that's kind of what I'm known for. As I mentioned, I've studied with Erin. That's kind of like her look too. I'm also very inspired by Kiana Underwood of Tulipina. I've studied with her. If you guys, you'll just die if you look at her arrangements. Let's see, Gabriela Salazar is also someone that I've worked with, and hers are even more both wild and just lush and beautiful. She grows her own flowers too. And then I love Kevin Sharkey also, who's Martha's right-hand man, and I've actually had the opportunity to study with him as well. So those are some of the people that have inspired my design style over the years. Although I've been, as the years have gone by, I've tried to like kind of make it my own as well. So again, I'm going to, so as my business, I mentioned to you, I kind of started simple. And then as the years progressed with the business, we've kind of, they became more elaborate because we actually started doing more events like baby showers, rehearsal dinners, receptions, lots of birthday parties, and corporate events too. So we kind of made that leap, into bigger design pieces, like this one that I'm about to do. Now here, again, we'll start with some foliage to kind of provide some structure for the arrangement. This is Variegated Pittosporum, which I know lots of you have in your gardens. When I used to live in California, and I studied some floral design out there, and they would order this in, and I liked it, and I thought, oh wow. But then when I moved back to Florida, I'm originally from Orlando. I was like, oh my gosh, this is everywhere. This is like, we were ordering it in back there, but here it's like in people's yards and but I do like the variegated variety best. Again, pull off all the leaves. I always give everything. Oops. Okay, so these are my favorite floral snips, the Japanese floral snips. But for something that's a little bit more thick and woody, the ARS 45, and this is what I actually harvest flowers with. And I didn't discover I learned about these from Erin actually, and I've gone through many pairs of flower scissors and snips and all that, and came back to these two. And I'm just sticking with those now. You know what, Bernadette, I forgot to tie this onto, this is like the final piece of the ball jar. A little bit of twine and then the FarmGal flowers. If you could just tie that around the neck there. Okay, as I mentioned, the foliage you have to work with a little bit in the beginning. It always kind of falls a little, but it gets there. Okay, so that gives us a little bit of structure. This is just kind of a reflection of one of our FarmGal's signature arrangements. Like if someone was going to call me like, oh, Eileen, I'm having a dinner party. I need 3 centerpieces. This is what I would do. Probably not in this in this watering can. It would be like, in an urn or something like that. But I just couldn't resist using this. And I thought this, out of all the arrangements I'm doing today, this was where it fit in kind of the best. So, okay. And then from here, we will go to one of my favorite mass flowers. This is not Queen Anne's lace, but it's like Queen Anne's lace. This is a me green mist. I like this better because I know some people here are from up north. There's some people here from up north, and Queen Anne's lace grows everywhere, they tell me, up north. But when you touch it, it shatters, all over the place. This variety does not shatter. And it's called a me green mist. It starts out green, but then it eventually turns white. So it's almost the same thing. And it has great stems. And it also has that wispy look that I love. So it's a great mass flower. Mass flowers are flowers that occupy space in your arrangement, like hydrangea, and Bouquet Dill is another one of my favorites. Plant these in November, by the way. Okay, now Bouquet Dill, which looks like this but is yellow. I'll get to him. Let me just finish this one little thing. But you have to remember, dill is a host plant for swallowtail butterflies. So I always grow Bouquet Dill. Ours isn't blooming right now, so I didn't bring any today. Looks like this, but it's yellow. Now, so if you give a bouquet with Bouquet Dill in it, there could be an egg in there. And one day I had an arrangement on the counter with Bouquet Dill, and my son was like, "Ooh, cool. There's a caterpillar, and they're beautiful caterpillars, really fat and, striped. And for us, and probably for all of you, that's a neat thing. You wouldn't freak out about it. But if you give, or if you're selling, bouquets with Bouquet Dill in it, you should probably tell your clients that that's a possibility. Like if they're having a super fancy dinner party, maybe not put Bouquet Dill in there. So just kind of keep that in mind. But that never bothers me, because we grow organically. Sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier. We don't use any pesticides. So that is just part of it for us. So you might want to keep them. Oh yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Okay, and then let's add more. So those are mass flowers. Let's add some line flowers. What do I have here? So delphinium. Favorite. There aren't very many blue flowers, but delphinium is one of my favorites. Let's see. This is Belladonna. The variety is called Belladonna. Okay. I like Belladonna. I like the color of it. It does seem to shatter a little bit more earlier than Guardian. This is Guardian. This is just a small branch. You guys, I have to tell you a funny story. So I don't know if you can see it, but it has this blue color, cobalt blue color, and then it has some stripes. It's like kind of lavender. And the first season I grew this, I didn't know that it would come out with that stripe. And I took a photo of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so amazing. Look at this. I know, because I never see, look, I somehow grew some hybrid variety of delphinium, and I posted it on social media, look at this. And then my friends who were more experienced flower farmers than I got messages, Eileen, that's how it's supposed to look. Yeah. I'm like, it's still amazing, right? It's still amazing. I did feel I was a little embarrassed, but it's okay. It's all good. But I do always think of that story whenever, I continue to grow it every year because I love it, but it's okay. So I've learned over the years that you kind of want to put your darker colors like what's the right word? Deeper, I guess, into your arrangement, because then when you put the lighter shades, they enhance the lighter shades. And we'll get to that part, but that's why I'm placing those in there like that. Oh, you had a question? Yeah. AMMI, AMI, green mist. Green mist is the variety. Yes, and so is Bouquet Dill, and yeah, and they're all host plants for the swallowtail. This is another one of my favorite mass flowers, Dara, D-A-R-A, also in the same family. But as you can see, really large flower heads. People at the market garden are always asking me what this is. It's very popular. And I have lots of stories, you guys. Another cute story. Someone ordered a little arrangement from me, and she said, this is my favorite flower in the arrangement. What is it? I said, and I was so delighted to tell her it was called Dara, because guess what? Her name was Dara. And she said, now it's my husband's favorite flower too. So I always think of her whenever I put Dara in arrangement. But see how it takes up like space, in the arrangement. And it's so easy to grow. And like in the spring, it blooms all season long. So again, like you're constantly getting flowers. Okay, Foxgloves is a cool flower. And I feel like it's the most regal flower in the garden. I plant it like in mass all together in the garden. And when they bloom, it's like you want to put a little sign up that says, welcome fairies, because it's like a fairy garden, And, I love this purple color, but I didn't have it this week, but there is a peach color that is just magnificent. And the other cool thing, neat thing about foxglove is they have these little freckles on the inside. And they say, I think there was a study, but I've read this many times. Those are like the landing pads for bees. It signals them like, this is where you land and you go into the flower. I'm not making this up, you guys. You can Google it. But I always love that story that a plant would develop, a landing pad for a bee, and you always see the little bee butts, like hanging out of them, and they're so cute. And I really sometimes I sit there in the foxglove patch just waiting for a fairy to show up, because where else would they show up? I mean, it has to be in the foxgloves. And sometimes I don't stake a lot of my flowers. I get that question a lot, because I want the curvy bends in my flowers like this one has. And I don't do a lot of wiring because this is our style. And I just go, if that's bending that way, then it's going to go in that way. Believe me, I have tried to fight it and make it go the other way. It's not worth it. So again, here's another one. And this is just, that's just become part of our style. And you know what? It's a lot of work to stake plants. There are a few that I do stake. I'm not going to say I never stake plants. Like I stake the Lizzies because they need it. Okay, foxgloves. And let's make sure I've got everything here. Foxgloves are also line flowers. Delphiniums are line flowers. And then, you know what? We're going to put some of our focal flowers in now. The dahlias. our dahlias are blooming a little bit late this year, as I mentioned, because we kind of had, our January was cool. So what I brought today are Cornell Bronze. So round ball dahlias. So there are dinner plate dahlias, ball dahlias, pom-pom dahlia. There's all these different shapes. Okay, everyone loves the dinner plates, of course. I love them. Those are what most people associate with dahlias. These are the ones that are like as big as your face. And they're amazing and mesmerizing. And I do grow those. But we don't get as many blooms on those compared to the ball dahlias like these. And they're obviously called ball dahlias because they're shaped like that. But we still grow like the cafe au laits, those type, the dinner plates. Ours just aren't blooming yet. So this one is Cornell Bronze. It grows great in Orlando. I always leave that little bud there because that's part of our style. And focal flowers, I might adjust that a little, but they go in the front. They are the focal flower, of your arrangement. So they go up front and center. Now, this is something you do not want to do. You do not want to put two ball dahlias next to each other like that, because then it looks like two eyes that's looking at you, and that's what your eye will automatically go to. This is like a very known concept, in interior design and in floral design. You tend to work in odd numbers. So I am going to put this in still, but I'll put a third one in so that it doesn't look like two eyes, staring back at you. But this color, love this color. To avoid pollinators, is that what you said? No, because not to avoid pollinators, because we need the pollen. If I wasn't doing all this, I would still be growing all these flowers for the pollinators. Because that's a whole other lecture, about the butterflies and the bees and all that. But we net to trellis. So these are Everglades tomatoes, which we do grow for the tomatoes, but I put them in some arrangements too. And so we net that as a trellis growing vertically. Sometimes I do sweet peas, and then we net for that. Most of the vining, the vining.
Yeah, I've
flowers.
always been told that I have a lot of bees. And so I've always been told that the pollinators will decrease the life of your flowers. And so I was just wondering.
Oh,
if
I've
has
heard that
been your
too.
experience. So no.
I think
not an
it's
issue.
more, I don't really know of the validity of that,
Okay.
but I think it's definitely more important to have as many pollinators. I'm willing to sacrifice some base life if that's true,
Gotcha.
and have the pollinators, because the bee population is just really decreasing.
Thank you.
So I would, yeah. So see the three kind of breaks it up for your eye. Yeah. Absolutely.
Food that we eat is dependent on our pollinators.
You're
So
absolutely
we've
right.
got
It's
to worry
very,
about
very
that.
important.
That's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eileen, I wanted to ask you a question.
Yes.
First of all, I want to say I love your website. It's so original.
Oh, thank you.
It's really, really nice.
Thank you.
We have a garden and a farm in an urban area.
Yes, like
And
us.
one of the things that we wanted to do is to teach youth about flowers as well as how to grow. What would you suggest to get the interest? Because we want to make sure that we start with
I have
elementary.
something for you.
Okay. I'd love to talk about it. Thank you.
Plant those giant sunflowers. They're one and dones, which means there's really only one bloom. By the way, we don't grow any one and dones because I'm trying to get as many blooms as possible. But there are some flowers that are one and dones, and one of them is this giant sunflower. I think it's called Godzilla, which the kids will like just because of their name. But it grows very large, and they're always fascinated by it. And it's pretty spectacular. And then you can take that flower head when it goes to seed. And I believe that variety, you can either eat it, you can save the sunflower seeds to grow more in the future, or you can put it out for the birds to eat. So, and that's always kind of nice for the children, to see that whole process. So that's one I would suggest, but definitely some of the easier flowers that, I mentioned for the first arrangement, I would go with those. You want them also to feel successful, especially that first time around. So zinnias, sunflowers, marigolds, those are all good ones to start out with. I just put this dahlia is called Rock Run Ashley. So I put that one in there, and go ahead and add, let's see, I think I might put this one in the front actually. See, I love that. See how the two little buds are like going that way? Like, I love that. That makes me happy. It's a little things, you guys. Okay, but see how I put that right? I should have showed you, sorry. I put it right here, and it just kind of fills that space. Okay, so I would probably put some more focal flowers in the back, but just for time's sake, I'm gonna keep going. And then next I'm gonna add my supporting flowers in, which for this arrangement are going to be butterfly, ranunculus, and probably some cosmos here. So you can see how this arrangement is a little bit, a little bit more advanced than the last one. These flowers are harder to grow, but they're fancier and they're beautiful. Oh, I got that one there.
Can you talk a little bit about the zinnia, not the zinnia, the dahlia growing season?
Sure. So dahlias, so in 9B, where I'm from, we have two growing seasons, the fall and the spring. The best time to start your dahlias are in the spring season, but you can grow them again in the fall, start them in the fall. It's a little bit harder because it's, you're starting out warm. And we plant them early February, and they usually, like this time, they start blooming now. But I have learned over the years that we leave our tubers in the ground now over the summer. But again, we have well-draining beds. So, because tubers are subject to rotting. They look like potatoes. You guys have seen them. So we now leave our tubers in the ground over the summer because it's a lot of work to dig up tubers and divide them. And we tend to lift them now like every 2 to 3 years. You do have to divide them at some point because they grow into these huge mounds. So we tend to do that now like every 2 to 3 years. Some varieties, have developed more tubers than others, and the ones that are a little bit slower, we can leave in the ground longer. In the fall, we'll plant in September, and those will start blooming like in December. Now, the next question I usually get related to that is, well, you can't buy tubers in the fall, or a lot of people ship them to you in April or May, and that's not the time to plant them. I mean, you could, but it's not going to be very successful. Believe me, I still have students who contact me now like, I'm not getting them till the end of March. Is it too late? They know the answer to that question, but they still ask me every time. So what I tell them is, no, we store them over the summer in vermiculite and in a Ziploc bag. I did not have a cooler in the beginning, but I have a cooler now. So I put them in the back of the cooler for the summer, and then I'll plant them in September. If you don't have a cooler, as I said, I didn't have one for a long time. I put them orange. I put them in vermiculite and in a Ziploc bag and in the back of our closet in the dark. And it was air conditioned in there. And I didn't tell my husband that they were in there. I have to be careful what I say about my husband today because his cousin showed up today over there. I think he knows by now that I put them in the back of it. He should know me well enough by now that there are plants everywhere, or tubers, or but anyway. Did I get all that with dahlias? Do you have any other questions about dahlias? Did you have any other questions about dahlias? So dahlias is another like advanced class for us because dahlias are a lot of work. The reward though is so worth it. But as you know, they are a lot of work. You have to watch, you have to take care of them. They're also expensive. Those tubers are, even now they're even more expensive than they were a couple of years ago. They sell like for $15, $20 a piece. And because, everyone's gardening now. So I want, if you're going to pay that much money for them, I want, people to be successful and, because you've spent a lot of money on them.
Do most varieties grow here? I'm from the West Coast, and I would send to a fabulous grower in Oregon and Washington State
Oh yeah.
and get the most fabulous varieties. But can I still send for them and then store them? Because they only send them at a certain time of year.
Right. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
issue for us. Yeah, you just have to store them.
So I can get all varieties. All varieties will grow here.
Yeah, some do better than others. The ball dahlias tolerate the heat best.
How about the big ones?
I grow them and they, where's that? There was a pic, is it in the program? Yeah, look at the program on the front. Those are all cafe au lait dahlias. Those are dinner plates. That was one of my best seasons with those. So they do grow here. That's a snapshot of the part, the part of the garden that had all dinner plates.
Do you have a grower that people could send to for here from this state? Where do you get your dahlias?
Oh, the tubers?
Tubers.
All over the country.
You do.
Yeah. Now, okay. There is a website called Dahlia Addict. Who here knows Dahlia Addict? See, I knew someone knew Dahlia Addict. You put in the variety you're looking for. By the way, everyone's always looking for the same varieties at the same time, which drives up the price, and then it's harder to get. But anyway, you put in the name you're looking for, and then it tells you where it might be available. But you have to be careful because not all, some are farms, not all of them are reputable. A tuber has to have an eye or it's not going to grow. So if you get a tuber with no eye, you've just bought like a potato, a dud is the right, yeah, and nothing. And is that person going to give you a refund? You have to be careful, about who you buy them from. So Swan Island is one that sells to the public out of Oregon. They're reputable. I know I could share the name of some. I actually buy mine from a lot of my flower farming friends that are in different parts of the country that I know stand behind their tubers, and they'll send me another one, if it doesn't grow, or a refund. But this is why you have, I consider it like an advanced class, because you need to know that this is going to be a bit of work to get your dahlias to grow. But please don't think I'm trying to be negative or anything. I want you all to grow dahlias. They're amazing and magnificent, and they're beautiful. This is breakout. Look at that. It's just so beautiful. And when your first dahlia blooms, you're going to be like, I get that all the time, from my students, that has made their year, and I'm excited for them too. So Cafe au lait is one of the most popular dahlias. I'm sure you guys have all heard of it. But it's huge to put in bouquets. Like a lot of brides want them in their bouquets. It's a dinner plate. So this is a good alternative to Cafe au lait called Breakout. This one has become very popular too. This one I'm holding is a little bit more yellow. It's aged a little bit, but it does start out more of a creamy color. But again, the Japanese beetles, they particularly like this one. So you have to be just kind of, you need to, I always scout around the gardens like every day because you need to, I mean, look when you put that in the arrangement, I mean, that just makes the arrangement, right? I mean, that's what makes it all, worthwhile. Okay, so while I was talking, I added some more, I added some ranunculus in. I mean, this is not butterfly ranunculus, but again, like just so beautiful and lasts really long stems. We will put, yeah, they grow great in Florida. My mom grew gladiolas all the time.
Anything out of the ground, she just left.
Yeah, you just leave them in the
They
ground.
just came up, all colors.
Yeah.
Everything. Now I don't ever see anybody with any.
Flowers just some
not-
they're trends,
Oh,
like
they're
of
not
what's
on-
popular. But you know what? They all come around again. Like
just
everyone's
love 'em.
succulent crazy now, like that's a very popular flower. But they will probably come. I wouldn't be surprised if they came around again. But I remember growing up, my mom had lots of gladiolas. And they were, let me show you what I'm doing back here. But I know they grow particularly well in Florida. I think in Lakeland, Florida, there's a gladiola grower there that has a lot of different varieties. And oh yeah, that's one of my favorite flowers. Okay, so so this is like, a step up, more elaborate, arrangement. Flowers that took a little bit longer to grow. And this is typically like what I might put in a centerpiece. Of course, it would be a little bit shorter because you always want to see the person, across the way from you at the dinner table. And let's see what else. Any questions about this? But you can kind of see what it looks like. One thing I do use, so some flowers are known to be dirty flowers, like sunflowers, zinnias. That means they make the water dirty faster. So I do use, let me see if I think I brought it with me, CVBN tablets in the water. And it really does help extend the vase life of the flowers. There it is. So it's made by Crisol, which is, they make flower food. I'm sure you all have seen that. But for like an arrangement of this size, I'm going to go ahead and, because I want this to last for whoever wins it, I'm going to add like half a tablet in, and it really helps. It is, I'll leave it up here so you guys can come take a picture if you want. CVBN. So you'll see there's a Gerbera daisy on the front because that's also known like as a dirty flower. I shouldn't call it dirty flower. That sounds bad. Like, you know what I mean? It makes the water dirty faster. But this whole thing, I think, well, all the gardening items have gone up in price, but it used to be like $5 for this, and this would last me like a whole season. But it really does help extend the vase life for those dirty flowers. You can only find this on the Crisol website. But I'll leave it up here, and later on, you can come up and take a picture of it. But I definitely feel like it's worth the money to invest in that. It's amazing how much this little bottle, can do. It's Crisol, which is the company that makes it. It's like crisol.com. Don't buy it like on Amazon because it's like, it's like a third-party thing, and it's like 4 times the amount of money.
Do you ever pour the water out and put new water in? Does
Yeah.
that help?
Yes, it does help.
Okay.
But add more flower food or, the CVBN tablet. You can give your stems a fresh cut too. So that also extends the vase life. Keep this out of direct sunlight. This doesn't necessarily apply to us, but if you had a fireplace going, like you wouldn't want to put it near any heat source. Like don't put it next to your range, but you do all those things to extend the vase life. Okay. They want over here on the side. Yeah. Okay. Okay. How am I doing on time? Yes, Denise here. Okay. Oh my gosh. I might go 5 minutes over. Okay, good. Okay, this is one of my favorite arrangements. Okay, so as the next step in my business, this is probably around like year 4. People started to kind of take notice that someone was actually growing flowers, in Central Florida, like the Dahlias and Ranunculus, and had was having, success with that. Quick Dahlia story. This man had moved from up north to Orlando. He was at our local extension office with his dahlia plant, and he wanted to know what happened, like what happened to his dahlia plant, those plant clinics. And my friend, another master gardener, heard this whole conversation. Whoever he spoke to there at the plant clinic said, you can't grow dahlias in Florida, so just, that's why it's dead. And my friend overheard this conversation and says, she's like, psst, psst, come here, My friend tells me this later, okay? And he comes over and she's like, there's someone who grows dahlias, around here. She can grow dahlias. And that friend, I guess it's a good thing. She gave him my phone number. And I start getting all these texts, he wants me to diagnose his dahlia, and, he's been texting me for 4 years now. We've never met. I finally because I figured he was like a retired school teacher, I said to my husband, I don't think he's, I think it's fine. I'm just going to invite him over so we can get all his questions, answered, because this has been going on. We've never met. He's sending me photographs and stuff. And so that's I have that relationship with this guy. We still haven't met, but we're still texting me. Okay. So, sorry, I digressed a little bit there. At this point in FarmGal Flowers, so we're getting a little bit more attention. I was invited to do something similar to this for the Southern Flower Growers Association. I did similar piece, for them. I ended up doing it for Flower Magazine too, which was amazing. That got published. But these types of opportunities gave me a platform for showcasing Florida foliage, which most of you probably know this, but I'll just kind of share again with you. Central Florida is like the foliage capital of the United States. And a lot of people, even I, like I said earlier, I didn't know that in the beginning, but all of this foliage, comes from Central Florida. Specifically, these are all from Fern Trust. And I met Fern Trust around that time because we partnered. We were asked by Florist Review to create a botanical dress, like completely out of their foliage. So I created a dress, entirely out of their foliage. So that was an opportunity, to highlight Florida grown, plants. And, as I mentioned to you earlier, I'm from Florida. So, and I'm proud of that. And, I like to show people, what we have here. So I call this my Florida foliage arrangement. And, sometimes, people are like, oh, there's not really any flowers in it. It might be kind of boring, but as you can see here, we have I love the color green. I love mixing different shades of green, and we have all kinds of different textures here to work with. And again, I found this. Did I say this already? I found this where I found that watering can, and it's hard to part with too, but I'm going to, because you guys are so nice to invite me here. Okay, so I love this. It's called Asparagus plumosus. I was introduced to it by Fern Trust. I love it because it has this soft, wispy look, and it adds a different texture to the arrangement. I love the bend, so we will put some of this in to start with as the base. I love how it just, it's so easy to work with. I mean, it just automatically lays like that. Let me add a few more here. There, towards on the stem of this, it can be a little prickly. So just so you know that ahead of time when you work with it. It is a type, yes, it's a type of fern. But look at that. That's so pretty. But see how it provides nice structure to work with. Sometimes occasionally I'll use chicken wire balled up to use as my flower frog in arrangements sometimes, but most of the time I don't. I like to use, just go ahead and use the greenery that I have available. Asparagus, like the vegetable, plumosus, Plumosus. Ooh, I knew a good thing I looked it up last night. I mean, I knew it. It's just been a while since I've worked with it. So the key to this arrangement really is just layering. That's how I like to think of it. I mean, it can seem a little daunting, oh my gosh, what are you going to do with all these leaves? But I'd like to think of it in terms of layers. So I just put my asparagus plumosus layer in. I'm going to put some more, as I said, I love this variegated pit. A layer of that, and then we're going to add some more ferns. This company, Fern Trust, it's been they have great product. I don't work for them or anything, but they're just so generous to me, and they love to share. They share their product with me for occasions like this. I use them during the holidays. You guys might want to use them. Do you guys do a holiday floral design? Their magnolia is amazing. They do amazing garlands. But when I do a wreath class, that's one of my most popular classes, and I get all of the foliage from them. And it's so fresh. This is Victoria's lace fern. All of this was grown in Central Florida at Fern Trust. But do you see how I'm kind of layering it, layering it in? That makes it really simple when you think of it that way. piece here. So I just mentioned the wreath class we teach during the holidays. So in the spring, I tend to teach gardening, like how to grow cut flowers, like a beginner's class. And I teach floral design classes. Our holiday classes are very popular. A lot of the succulents come from Central Florida as well, like the nurseries are there. And those are, you see all these succulents all over the country. They're coming from Central Florida. And I feel very fortunate that I can just go over there and pick up my succulents, because my colleagues in other parts of the country are having them shipped to them. So they don't, they go through that process. They don't look like 100%, when they get there. And I feel very fortunate that I can actually just go over to those nurseries myself and pick them up. I'm going to, by the way, the reason I mentioned that is I'm going to add some succulents to this. That one looks a little bit too thick. Well, all of this just grows well here in Central Florida, so yeah. Yeah. Oh, you're lucky that you bring me some of that too, because I don't have it growing. Okay, this is my she's hooking me up with different cuttings. As plant people, we like to share cuttings and all that. Okay, and then this is feather fern, which I like because it has a different shape. It's has that vertical line. Actually, I might start tucking some of this in. I'm sure it's called feather fern because it looks like a feather. I don't know if it's the exact same thing, but it sure looks like it. There are just so many varieties of ferns, and I don't know all of the names. And then I like to add in weeping Podocarpus because it has a different. It's wispy. It has a different shape, just to add more dimension to the arrangement. I'm going to turn this real quick because I don't know what it looks like. Weeping Podocarpus. Yes. I know we all have Podocarpus everywhere around here, but this is a different variety, and you can see how I like that, how it weeps. I like that look. But my goal with this arrangement is just to show you, how a green arrangement, can be beautiful. I've turned a lot of brides, to use this at their wedding receptions, especially if it's in a beautiful, like Florida type venue, I mean, these arrangements look great and they last a really long time. So it's definitely become more popular in my area, and it's a bit more. It's more cost effective, and maybe they might want to put more of that money into their bouquet, and do something like this for the centerpieces. Yes, absolutely. And long lasting. Yeah, and long lasting. I agree with you. This is aspidistra. Sorry, I always mess up this. Aspidistra. Did I say it right? Okay. We have Milky Way and variegated. So Milky Way is the one with the dots, which is fun. Yes. ASPIDISTRA.
You didn't know this was going to be a spelling bee, did you, Eileen?
What was that?
You didn't know this was going to be a spelling bee.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad I made my little card. Because I wasn't going to, but then I said someone might ask me how to spell these things. And, but I understand. I'm the same way. I'm always like, how? Because, you want to remember like what these all just like tend to kind of weave in. What was that? Oh, I will take your word for that because I'm not 100% positive. I don't grow this. This is one that Fern Trust sends to me, but I do love to work with it. Yeah, I believe that. I've seen it rolled up in vases. Look at it. That is so pretty. But it gives some height, a different, different colors. Okay, I got to see where we're at here. Okay, we need some more. No, that's not working. Okay, and then so it's not this is not 100% foliage because I do tend to add, I will, if I have Queen Anne's lace, I'm sorry, not Queen Anne's lace, a me green mist, I will add some to it. But I think it just, because I think it looks good and just kind of adds to it, gives it another, shape. So I'll add a few more of these. Sorry, I will turn it back in just a minute. I just wanted to kind of see where we're going here. And then I will add some freesia. So you can see it's starting to come together better there. A little bit of flowers. But I feel like the flowers I'm putting in are to emphasize the foliage, not the other way around in this arrangement. A little bit messy up here. Okay. And this one, I do look at, where what direction it's going in. Freesia, it smells so good. And then I will add, oh, there we go, some foxgloves, white foxgloves. Let me add one more. I feel like it needs one more to balance a bit. And then I will add some succulents to this. Now the succulents are from, like as I mentioned earlier, are from our Central Florida, from our area, from one of the local nurseries. A lot of those are also run by families that have been there for generations. So I do like to try, I always try to partner with these businesses when I can. Those foxgloves are leaning a little bit, but they will perk up once they take in more water. I just gave them a fresh cut. Okay, I have my succulents here, but I think I may have, one might be under my little pile. Ah, there it is. Okay, so for the succulents, to use them in this arrangement, first I want to tell you I'm not a plant killer. If you know me, you know like it would pain me to kill a plant. Someone on social media, they saw us doing our succulent pumpkins. Have you guys seen those? They're heirloom pumpkins, and we make like a little garden of succulents on top. Probably our #1 class. I mean, people just go crazy over them. And someone left a comment that I was killing all these plants, and you don't know how much that pained me, but I'm not killing them. I mean, I was so upset. Like I told my husband about it. I'm like, they think I'm a plant killer. And he's like, if anyone knew you, they really knew you, they would know you are absolutely not a plant killer. So what happens is for this, I will take this succulent and cut it straight across out of here. That does not kill the succulent, okay? So it kind of looks like, it'll look like this. And then I take a 22 gauge floral wire and puncture it. Well, you can either puncture it or you can bend it in half, and you kind of have to hide your mechanics here. We always try to hide our mechanics and kind of line it up. You do have to be a little bit careful because you want to try and not break off a leaf. Inevitably, you will break off a leaf, and you can usually hide it later. But and you're kind of just, the goal is you're just kind of making like a little stem for you to put this into the arrangement. So I use this to highlight, all the succulents that are coming from our area as well. And it becomes like a green flower in here. Like that. And again, don't put two of the same kind like right next to each other, because then it looks like, they're staring back at you. I'll add this one in, but I love this because it looks like they're like little stars, they are the star. They're stars like looking out at you. And it adds another dimension and texture into the arrangement. I'm going to put one more in. I had pre-wired a few ahead of time, but I wanted to show you how I do it in case you wanted that information. They surprisingly last a long time like this. And then what you do, like at least a month. And then what you do afterwards is you take the wire out. If you have a pot, I usually use succulent and cactus soil, and you just lay it on top of there and keep it moist, not sopping wet, but moist. And eventually it's going to root into that. So you did not kill the plant. I did not kill the plant. And when I teach my succulent classes, I give all these instructions, to my students. And the other option is, if they don't want to do all that, is they leave them on my front porch, and then I add them, to our succulent collection. But they're alive. But see, there you can see how we added them. Can you guys see that? Added the succulents in. I feel like we need a little bit more height in here, but I know I have one more arrangement to do. These are Echeveria types, the round succulents. They come bigger too. This is what I had, so that's what I use them. Okay, so I think I want to make sure I get to the last arrangement, so this one's going to go over here. Yeah. Be careful. That one. I just want to say thank you for having me here today. I feel like I didn't get to answer like all of your questions and everything. So I'm going to be here for a while afterwards. I'm happy to talk with you, answer any cut flower questions you have. You can also reach out to me, farmgalflowers.com. It's pretty easy, simple, easy to remember. You can reach me that way. But But I think that's it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been an amazing, amazing program. And